Welcome in, everyone. What a great game by the Packers. Great team win against the Minnesota Vikings. They win at 33 to 10, and their playoff hopes are still alive. So we get to see next week against the Chicago Bears at Lambeau Field a playoff clinching game if they win. It's kind of a little bit worrying because that was the same situation that the Packers had last year against the Detroit Lions. Right? They had to win, and essentially they were in, and that ended up not turning out so well, right? So you had the Lions that played spoiler, and I think the Bears are in the same situation to play spoiler. They even have a chance to potentially make the playoffs if Seattle loses next week and they win. And obviously, they need a lot more help in other places in order for that to happen and get them to the playoffs. So I don't think the Bears are going to go down easily. I'm looking forward to that game. It's been flexed to the afternoon slot, so it should be a 3:25 kickoff Central Time. And of course, it's always a fun time with the NFC North rivals. So I want to kind of start out by looking at, the my notes in general, looking at the defense. And I think that the defense played extremely well. The one touchdown that they gave up was obviously due to poor field position, due to the muff punt, which Samari Toure wouldn't be surprised if he's not on the team next week, right? They've called up Melton now the max amount of times from the practice squad. So they either have to sign him to the active roster or cut him. And I don't think that this is going to be a situation like Patrick Taylor, where they called him up for the maximum and then ended up cutting him and he went to the Patriots and now he's back. I think Melton is going to stay on the roster. I think with Watson coming back, it sounded like from the broadcast that Watson is going to be coming back next week. Wicks is probably going to be back. We don't know how serious the injury is for Jaden Reed, but he should be in the lineup as well. And I think obviously today, Bo Melton had a great game. He was the first receiver this year for the Packers to go over 100 receiving yards. So obviously that is huge for Bo Melton and huge for the Packers to have a receiver from that depth playing so well. So looking at obviously the box score, we have Jordan Love, excellent game, right? 256 yards, not a lot of yards, but he made some huge throws, right? 24 of 33 and three touchdowns, four total touchdowns if you count his rushing touchdown where he reaches out, stretches out, gets a wonderful touchdown. So Packers offense just played lights out. They had a few drops that led to, a 3-and-out on the first possession and the touchdown that Bo Melton potentially could have had on that play action. But, all in all, the Packers offense played very, very well. Aaron Jones not scoring a touchdown, but another game over 100 yards. He's just been incredible, and he's had a huge burst since he's been back. And I think the Packers, played well against these backup quarterbacks. Jaden Reed, another big day, 89 yards, two touchdowns, went out with the injury. Talked about Bo Melton already, but looking at the Packers defense, Nixon was all over the field, made a ton of tackles. He's really been flourishing in that nickel spot. He does get a little aggressive at times and can still get beat, but he's been playing very, very well. But one of the things that I wanted to note, he's not very big in the box score here, but looking at Darnell Savage, him being back in the lineup just made it seem like the communication was so much easier for all the safeties because Johnson and Owens were playing so much more confident this week compared to last week. And I'm interested to see the PFF grades once they come out, which should be tomorrow. But I honestly believe that Darnell Savage his return to the lineup made everything so much better on the back end, even though he wasn't showing up in the box score, right? And the pass rush was there as well. Got to the quarterback multiple times. Preston Smith has quietly had a huge season. Quay Walker on the blitz as well. He is so good when it comes to you give him a job, he does that job. And when he's blitzing, like he has been the past couple weeks, he has been incredible, right? Try to avoid playing zone. That's what I mentioned in my preview. And, he played very, very well. And I think that was another thing that Savage took over a responsibility of playing in that hook zone in the middle of the field. So, you know, Quay Walker isn't there in space as much. At least I didn't notice him being in space as much. So defensively, it honestly felt like this was playoff football. And that's something that the Packers have been missing. I think in terms of the energy of this team, this game was that playoff football moment. You've got a bunch of people that are playing super high energy, super aggressive, flying all over the field, and that's something that we hadn't seen in the last 3 weeks, right? We've seen kind of this repressed defense where they're sitting back, they're playing in this zone coverage, but it's not really comfortable for a lot of those players, and I think unleashing them has been the right decision. Obviously, having the 2 turnovers as well is huge, right? We haven't had a lot of turnovers this year. The strip fumble by Preston Smith, right? Quietly having a good season. Ballantyne getting the tip that was obviously a little bit lucky, but good positioning by Ballantyne to be able to make a play on it. And, switching back over to the offensive side, you had Matt LaFleur, who was, in his bag. He was making great play calls. I mean, he really planned well for this Brian Flores defense, and he attacked kind of the deep spots. He knows that there's going to be a lot of pressure, and by attacking those deep spots, they're vulnerable. And you saw the seed that Jordan Love threw at the very beginning of the game, looking at that play, the very first touchdown, it was splitting a 2 high safety, right? You've got one safety going one post or one pylon and the other safety on the other pylon, and right in the middle is Jaden Reed. And that's something we've seen historically with Packers football, is looking at, we've seen Jordy Nelson do it. We've seen it before with Sharp. That post is just kind of traditional Packers football, and we saw that again with Jaden Reed tonight. And Jordan Love, again, played amazing. It feels really, really good to have Jordan Love performing at this level right now going into the playoffs. And I feel really confident going into next week's game against the Bears that the Packers are going to perform quite well. So I think overall, pretty clean game. Not a lot of penalties, only 4 penalties for the Packers. Obviously, the 4 touchdowns, the missed PAT again. Of course, you've got Carlson missing those PATs. That eventually is going to be something that could bite you in the butt. And, overall, an incredible team night. Going into Minnesota, it really seemed like the Packers were the only team that wanted to be playing. So they brought the energy. Minnesota couldn't keep up. And that's pretty much it. You've got a quick recap looking at some of the pressures. Obviously, Rashawn Gary, Devontae Wyatt with his massive club. Kenny Clark and Preston Smith all were very, very good. And of course, these Packers rookies are still producing. So I think, going into next week, I need to get into the film of looking at Chicago. They've been playing very, very well lately. I need to see what they've been doing schematically so that I can give a better preview, but I feel pretty confident that the Packers can protect their house in Lambeau Field if the defense plays like this again next week. More aggressive, more kind of free-flowing on the back end, and allow their players to make plays. So let me know what you guys think about this week. I was pleasantly surprised with this week. I was a little bit nervous going in, but the first few drives kind of settled me in, and I'm hoping that Joe Barry can plan for the Chicago Bears in the same way that he planned for the Vikings this week. So let's see. I don't know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.